Hey there, Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting dodo birds, leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you watch it on YouTube, you know what to do to the like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, please. Also do that while you're here. Let's get into it. Place to start is Corvallis. Beaver Fever. Final score, Oregon State 97, Gonzaga 89 in overtime. Fun game on CBS Sports Network. Like I said on TV last night, I don't love working till 2 a.m. like, you know.
Oh, sure you do. Look at you right now. I can tell you. I can tell you love it, GP.
It's a late weeknight, but I sure don't mind doing it when the Zags are involved in a competitive game in a nice, true road environment. Norlander, 4 seasons ago, Oregon State went to the Elite Eight. Since then, a lot of suck. But this season, Wayne Tinkle's team is 14-5. They got to win over the Zags, and only one loss outside of Quadrant 1. Question:
Okay,
is Beaver Fever back? Is Beaver Fever back?
Beaver Fever is so back.
Feels back.
I want to show you how back it is. We'll talk the game, but real quick, I got to show this quick post game. I know you saw it from the studio. Our Emily Proud was sidelined. Nana's got it queued up. Here's what the scene was like on the floor in Corvallis at Gill Coliseum after the win.
Ty and Emily Proud.
Michael, what got India down the stretch there?
I mean, we were just trying to get stops, make winning plays, and we all did that. We all bought into our play, and we ended up having a big win out here.
What does a win like this mean for your team this season?
It means a lot, you know. We dropped a couple at home. Should have won against Oregon. And I mean, you see this. We got our fans ready, our students. It's just great. It's a great feeling to win.
What's it mean to you to celebrate with your fans?
I don't know.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're going to tell me that's not Beaver Fever? You're going to tell me Beaver Fever's not back?
I apologize for even asking the stupid question. It's obvious that Beaver Fever's back.
The reason why I wanted to show that, shouts to our Emily Proud. Believe she is pregnant, holding an on-court post-game interview like that. Good stuff all around. Really cool. A number of things about this, GP. That just looks like a cool building, like Corvallis. You're in the middle of nowhere. I hope one day there's a reason for me to get out there and cover the Oregon State Beavers, because there were some great shots from our CBS crew, and just the structure in general. There's not a lot of buildings in the country that look like that one. So it just had me all the more wondering, like, can I ever get out there and see a game like that? Plus, you get these are going to be conference mates moving forward. They're both going to be in the rebuilt and reformed Pac-12 in a couple of years, but they're going to obviously share WCC turf here for the next 2 years, which I don't know if you picked up on it as well, or you guys were talking about in the studio. It was weird and just uncommon. There was both a WCC logo and a Pac-12 logo on the court during this game. You just don't, that's where we are in college sports right now. But to see Gonzaga go into that building, it was the 28th time these teams have met. Oregon State is now 26-2 against Gonzaga. Gonzaga last beat Oregon State in 1932. They were using trains to get to games back then. Incredible that it's been that long. Now they'll get they're probably going to finally snap the 97 year streak there, 92 year streak later this season when they host. But yeah, it was cool to see those two programs playing and knowing it was a conference game. Beaver Fever is back. I think this might be the second show we've ever led second time we've ever led the show or the pod with Oregon State, but good on them and good for the WCC. The league is better this season than it has been. I believe it's still 7th at Ken Palm. I think it's maybe finished 7th, as high as that once ever. So I was glad I stayed up. You were in studio, so you were a little more wired. I was struggling, man. I had a long day yesterday with the kiddos, got up early, and it goes to overtime. I'm like, I gotta watch this thing. I gotta stay up. And then you and I made the improv decision to start the pod a little bit later here on Friday. But good on Oregon State. Only 9 turnovers. That's what did it, by the way. From a gameplay perspective, they only had 9 turnovers. They only had 18 fouls in 45 minutes. They took it to Gonzaga on the interior. It was Michael Radash, 29 points. Nate Kings with a Z, by the way. That's a hip hop name straight out of 2003. I love it. He had 20, Kingz. I absolutely love it. Get Oregon State in the tournament. Come on, let's go. Tinkle in a hot seat season, says who? I loved it. What were your takeaways?
Well, for trivia time.
Yeah.
I hear your affection for Gill Coliseum, but do you know? Do you know who Gill Coliseum is named for?
It's got to be Keith Gill.
It's not Keith Gill, but wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a twist?
Just tossing out a name here.
Gill Coliseum is named for Amory T. Slats Gill. He coached the Beavers from 1928 to 1964. And, buddy, when I heard about that, you know the first thing I thought of? I wonder if Stats Gill was coaching basketball against Tony Hinkle ever.
Did he?
I tell you what, at about 3:45 this morning, I was pretty fired up.
You're out of your mind, by the way. You keep with your story, but you text me, you're like, I'm not getting to bed till 4:30. I say, make it 4 at the latest. And then you're about to tell me that you're going on a deep dive on the dude that was named after this building. And instead of closing up shop and getting some shut-eye.
I needed to know. You ever needed to know something?
Not that bad at 3:45.
Oh, buddy.
You start thinking about what you need to know at 3:45 in the morning, your mind can go to some bad places, my friend. It's time to close the computer and get to bed. This is some serious life advice for you.
I was Googling Slats Gill all night long. I can't find any evidence that these dudes ever coached against each other. They coach at the same time for a long time. I gave up and called it a night. But Jared Burson, homework assignment. If Stats Gill and Tony Hinkle ever got into a chess match, I'd like to know when and where and who prevailed. I couldn't find any evidence, but buddy, I swear, hand to heart, I spent some time on it.
There's no need for this whatsoever. I just love the fact that Oregon State gets a huge win, snaps Gonzaga's 11-game road winning streak that had gone back more than a year. You know, despite Graham Mike having a nice game, 26 points, 9 boards, semi-controversial foul out there. You got to know. Am I hearing you correctly, by the way, between the little sleep and the Memphian accent? Are you saying his name is Stats, as in stats?
Slats.
Slats. Slats.
Yeah. Slats. Oh, Slats.
I mean, when's the last time? I've never even heard that name in my life. Slats?
Me neither.
That was his name, not a nickname?
Well, maybe now you can understand why I had to do what I had to do. Oregon State's still 14-5 and in the 60s at KenPom. We still got a little ways to go before we're having bubble conversations about the Beavers, but Beaver Fever felt back. As for the Zags, 2-5 now in quadrant 1, and only 2 more quadrant 1 opportunities on the remaining regular season schedule, according to current projections. So the Zags will likely be under 500 in quadrant 1 heading into the WCC tournament, even if they win every remaining game on their schedule. Their best win right now, Baylor on a neutral at San Diego State. Only 2 quadrant 1 wins and only 4 wins in the first 2 quadrants. Auburn has a national best 10 wins inside the first 2 quadrants. Gonzaga sitting here with 4.
Okay, yeah, okay, got it. Keep going.
With very few opportunities to get more. I dropped the Zags to 24th in the top 25 and 1. So as of, about 4:15 in the morning, they were still 11th at KenPom, but with no resume to support the seeding that type of number might reflect. So I'm telling you right now, they're going to likely be what most people consider underseeded on Selection Sunday, and it's going to be because of a lack of big wins. And then we'll get into a philosophical debate about whether that means they were actually underseeded at all. Either way, that's where we're headed. Clip this, bring it back on Selection Sunday. The Zags are going to be ranked somewhere in the AP polls, somewhere in the computers, and probably seeded in a way that doesn't line up with the other numbers you've been paying attention to.
Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see if they can get it done in league play. If they don't, then it'll get even more intriguing. I'm also wondering if you said only 2 Q1s left right now. If there's anyone near that flip line, then that can turn into a third opportunity. We'll see. And then obviously in the WCC tournament, they should have 2 Q1s waiting for them in the semis and the title game. So they might be able to get flat even across the board by the time it's time to build the bracket. But we'll wait and see on that. I thought Gonzaga would win last night. I thought Oregon State was going to keep it very competitive. I talked about it earlier in the day on HQ. I said I think this is going to be really close late, and that wound up being the case there. But I thought the Zags would pull it out. If they have EK for the final couple minutes, maybe it's a little bit different. But credit to Oregon State, which really seemed to have a really good game plan. Building was fired up. Awesome. And by the way, that was just the second win in the past 14 opportunities at home. At Slats, at Gill, I want to call it Slats Coliseum. No, Slats just sounds so much cooler.
It does.
Oregon State's now 2-12 in its last 14 home games against ranked competition, or I guess 2-12 in its last 14 games period against ranked competition, and we're 1-6 again in home in those situations. So good on the Beavers, Beaver Fever. I'm going to say it's back. They're not a tournament team, but maybe they got a shot. Maybe this is going to be the win that really flips them toward trying to build toward an at-large bit, but they're going to have to really, be a top 2 team in the WCC to make that possible. Gonzaga, wait and see. But man, it has been a change from that first week when we were talking about them. We're like, damn, this really looks like a top 5 team again. Hasn't gone that way whatsoever. And now we'll see how they manage what could be the best WCC top to bottom we've seen in a long, long time.
As for the multiple logos on the court, Norlander, right now you are looking at a man who used to walk into the Memphis basketball practice facility and stare at a Big East logo on the wall. Memphis never played a game in the Big East, but that logo was there. So nothing's weird to me anymore as it pertains to conference realignment. We can't move on, by the way. We got to, before we go to the Iowa State, Kansas, we got someone in the chat. Bram. First of all, dude named Bram. I mean, Slats, Bram, huge day for random names. Shouts to Bram Stoker, of course. Says Slats Gill played Hinkle in 1941-42, according to their media guide. Look at that. Got it in a matter of minutes, and here you are diving deep at 3:45 in the morning. You're lost. You're like a child who wanders into a theater. Shouts to Bram. That's what I felt like.
It happened. Your instinct was correct.
Who won? Who didn't win? Controversial plays? How'd they get there? I need to know more.
Bram's all over it. Butler won 35-29.
No, that was
Tony Hinkle. Slatsgill had nothing on Tony Hinkle.
I would have predicted. I would have made Tony Hinkle a favorite for sure.
Yeah,
I would have
at least 3.5 points.
Based on what I know, I would have made Tony Hinkle a favorite for sure. Whole bunch of stuff to get to from the past 2 days, including a wild Thursday night in the Big Ten. We're going to do that next. First, though, let's get a word from our partners.
Sail GP is coming to Auckland, New Zealand. The City of Sails will be expecting a performance from the Black Foils and their driver, Peter Burley.
It is kind of stupid that Bram could just figure this stuff out in 10 seconds, and I was genuinely confused at 3:45 in the morning. I realize that doesn't reflect well on my Google skills. I'll try to get better. Norlander, a whole bunch to get to from the past couple of days. Do you want to do it chronologically and start on Wednesday, where the headlining game was Iowa State smacking Kansas over the head with some Hilton magic? You want to start there?
Yeah, let's GP. Let's go Wednesday first, and then we'll go Thursday. And frankly, had Gonzaga won easily on Thursday night, maybe we should have or would have started here. But Iowa State rattles off a 16-2 run late, pulls away, and gets yet another ranked win at home. ISU fans are probably all too aware of this, but if you're not an Iowa State fan, they have won 11 straight games at home versus ranked competition. TJ Altsberger and his staff deserve so much credit for how they prep and get their team up for the moment. This is beyond just the fact that Iowa State has won 17-point blown lead away from being undefeated this season. I keep going back to that game against Auburn, top 5 matchup in Maui. Just tremendous day. That was the best day one, or maybe best day in Maui history. And Iowa State could have won. Credit to Auburn for getting it there. And now we flash forward to this point. These are literally by ranking the top 2 teams in the entire country. Curtis Jones really emerging as a really cool story. Isaac Trotter, who joined our team this season as a writer and works on the 247 Sports side. He was at this game. He wrote a piece on Curtis Jones, who, started at the JUCO level, then to Buffalo, and now he had 25 points here. He's averaging almost 22 points in his past 6 games. Jumps into the starting lineup, was a big time factor there. Iowa State, a couple stunners from me. They're 15-1 for the first time in school history. A semi-stunner. That's a 15-1 is an awesome start, and not too many programs have 15-1 starts on their dossiers over the years. But they are 5-0 in league play. Man, we're going back to the first half of the 20th century multiple times on a Friday podcast. The last time and the only other time Iowa State has ever started 5-0 in conference play was 43-44. 43-44. That's the era of Slats Gill.
I know. That's what I've been trying to tell you.
It's incredible that they've only done this twice ever, because we're not talking 10-0, 12-0, 13-0. We're talking 5-0 in league play. TJ Altsberger continues to do an amazing job. I'll let you handle the Kansas side of it. Self had an interesting quote after the game, but as I said on Wednesday on HQ, for people that have been following the sport, this is not surprising. You saw Iowa State come back and beat Texas Tech on the road last weekend, and this has been a Final Four contender in the eyes of plenty, including GP, to start the season. And then the Maui stuff solidified it for any and all skeptics, yours truly included. I've owned that plenty of times. But for anyone else that's like picking up here and there with some college hoops and like, okay, this Iowa State team, good record. Like, how good are they? If you saw them against Kansas on Wednesday night, just an emphatic reminder that they are a viable and as viable a national title contender that exists in this sport. And if you're an Iowa State fan, you can count on one hand the number of seasons where you've gotten to the middle of the season and considered yourself in your program to truly be on like the short list of 4 or 5 teams that are most likely and most capable to win a national title. That's the case this year. Love the roster, continue to say great things. And by the way, they are doing this without Milan Momcilovic, who didn't play in the game. That's why Jones started. He is out indefinitely because of a left hand or wrist injury with that. So who knows when we're getting him back? It's not going to be until at least February. Sounds like it could be at least a month. But in spite of that, didn't matter on Wednesday.
I still have Kansas in the top 15 of the top 25 and 1. Kansas still is going to be in the top 10 of some computers. They're not bad, but I've noticed this with Kansas over the past few years. When they're not elite, it feels like they're bad. Like that, I can't support that with anything. But when they're not
great amount of curve kind of deal. Yeah.
Like when they're not in first place in the Big 12, it's like, man, what's wrong with Kansas? They're still probably one of the 15 or so best teams in the country. But just like I said last night on Inside College Basketball, I don't think there's ever been a point in the season, or at least there hasn't been many points in the season, where you went, watched them, and walked away and said, well, that's why they were preseason number 1 right there. They're just good. I don't know if they're ever going to be what it is I and the AP voters and many others thought they would be in the preseason, which is quite literally the best team in the country. I don't know that they're going to get there. They can still be good, but I don't know that they're going to get there based on what we've seen first 2+ months of this season.
Here's what Self said afterward. He said, quote, "I thought our effort was good, but our competitiveness wasn't. It was a lack of really understanding and respecting how competitive you had to be successful in this game. Guys still tried. You don't get a ribbon for trying." He's absolutely correct. If you watched how they played out the game, it was evident. KJ Adams, dealing with injury as well. Zeke Mayo had 17, but again, Rylan Griffin, AJ Storr, just non-factors. And all the pieces together, just it's not quite there. The poll question today for the show, the audience, is Kansas has never made the Sweet 16. I think this is either the 5th or the 6th time they've been preseason number 1 in the AP Top 25 in their history. And in all previous times, it's never made the Sweet 16, period. So the question is, will Kansas make the Sweet 16 this season? And 74% are saying no. 26% say yes. A little bit of recency bias after we just saw them lose. If they had beaten Iowa State, we asked that question, I think it would be probably at least 60-40 going the other way. So I get that. But it is notable that for the second straight season, they were preseason number 1. And for the second straight season, they are falling short of that expectation in decent measure. 12-4, still a quality team. But They don't get to the line. They don't get to the line at all, which is extremely problematic. And then the fact that they don't get to the line and they don't shoot threes well. Hunter Dickinson has been a quality player. We mentioned that earlier this week together, but they're going to need some. They're going to need some more. Tough venue. Iowa State should have won. If Kansas had won, it wouldn't have shocked anyone. But I took more away from that game with ISU and what it is. But can't help but notice that Kansas as a collective unit still isn't operating on all cylinders the way that you would want them to. And this is coming off a situation where they had allowed UCF only 48 points on the road, Arizona State only 55 at the Fog, and then Cincinnati only 40. Meantime, in this one, Iowa State puts up 74, but they had 45 in the first half. So yeah, Altenberg and his staff, they dictated the terms. They won the game, and they won it easy, 74-57.
I know Kansas does not give out ribbons for trying hard. Any thoughts on whether it should?
I don't believe that it should. No.
Yeah. I mean, it can't hurt at this point. They're 6-4 in the first two quadrants. I don't know that it could hurt. Also on Wednesday night, Tennessee 74, Georgia 56. Georgia entered the AP poll for like the first time in 14 years, immediately had to go to Knoxville.
Yeah.
Got smacked. Next up, they've got Auburn. Mm-hmm. So you move to number one. You move into the AP poll for the first time in 14 years. Your first game is against the team that was number one last week. Your next game is against the team that's number one right now. That's a scheduling quirk, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just, almost every team in the SEC is going to have this. Georgia just happened to get it. Maybe well-timed. You finally jump into the rankings. That's not going to be the case when they refresh next week, but they'll have opportunities to climb back in later in January, if not February, if they can pull together, 3 or 4 wins in a row, depending on when the schedule breaks in their favor. Tennessee won the game. 2 reasons. One, it had like a 24-2 run to start the second half. I mean, it was actually a good game for the first 20 minutes. The defense, it was like a signature defensive performance for the Vols. And then Zakai Ziegler, he was great again. 16 points. Like, if you watched the entire game and you look at 16.7 assists, 6 steals. Has there been a dude that's had 7 assists and 6 steals in a game so far this season? I could have looked it up, but I didn't have time, and I wasn't up at 3:45 in the morning to go on a deep dive there. He was great again. Tennessee, no surprise. I thought Tennessee would win this game, win it with a little bit of ease. I didn't know if it would go on that big of a run, but credit to Ziegler again. I thought he played well. Also in the SEC, Texas did win at Oklahoma GP 77-73. Are you aware that Rodney Terry is 8-0 all time against Oklahoma?
Yes, I've been talking about it for years.
I don't think I've ever heard you bring it up on the show, but however, I'll take your word for it. Maybe I checked out on that segment in the past.
Yeah, sometimes I can tell you're not listening.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, me. Yeah, okay. On my end, that's the case. Jordan Pope had 27 for Texas, which did wilt late, by the way. Like Oklahoma at home, 19-3 run. Watching it play out, I didn't think Texas was going to give it away, but I was not putting it out of the realm of possibility. They wind up winning by 4 and just hold on. Jalen Moore was awesome for Oklahoma in this game. He had 29 points. Jeremiah Fears was also good, but sometimes there are just possessions where it's like, it's a freshman, bad turnover, and he's a sieve defensively. Oklahoma has lost 4 in a row, looks to get right Saturday when it is hosting South Carolina. Credit to rest of the court for this stat. Texas, the key is 1 point per possession allowed. They are undefeated when it's under 1, and if it gets to 1.00 or exactly or better, they've yet to win a game. They held Oklahoma just barely under 1 PPP, and they get the win. Any thoughts there? You want to keep touring on Wednesday?
Let's just keep it moving. I think there's at least one other notable result. UNLV 65, Utah State 62. That was on our air, CBS Sports Network. Utah State still 15-2 overall, 4-0 in quadrant 1, 0 losses outside of the first 2 quadrants. Like, that sounds good. Without the specifics, sounds pretty good. But with the specifics, it sounds less good. 0 wins over currently ranked teams in the AP poll, 0 wins over top 30 teams in the net. They got 2 losses to teams outside of the top 50 in the net, down to 52nd at barttorvik.com. So this is a team that put together a nice record. They got the quadrant 1 victories, but when you really dive in and start trying to pull it apart and look closer, there's not a whole lot of substance there. That was a tough loss for them to take.
Yeah, but still 16-2 first-year coach. So you take it every single time, and they'll have opportunities. No undefeated teams left in the Mountain West, by the way, and that league might be moving toward 3-bid territory. We'll see. It'll get at least 2 for sure. I think 4 is the absolute best case scenario if things break just right this season after getting 6 last season. By the way, credit to UNLV. 8 straight home. It's only 10-7, but it does have 8 straight home wins. That hasn't happened in 12 years. It has actually, going back to last season, it's beaten ranked teams in 4 consecutive games. They haven't done that since, shouts to Tark. 84-91 was the last time UNLV beat 4 ranked opponents in a row, and that was going back to the Big West days. So against key opponents, Kevin Kruger's team has done well, and they wound up, as you well know, you were watching GP. They closed strong in this one to pull it out. It was a really good late game stretch. Only one more from Wednesday that I want to bring up because it's another on the mid-major front. George Mason beat Dayton. Dayton's now 11-6. It's lost 4 of 5 and has its first 3-game losing streak in the A10 in more than a decade. This was a team that I thought was going to be in the 6-7 seed conversation, and now it is fighting for its tournament life. Don't know what went wrong. The A10 in general went from being a 3-bid league, or at least the hope of that in mid-December, to now it really might only wind up being a 1-bid conference, which frankly, at you as the one-time MC pre-pandemic for that league. Yep, and me just loving hoops, being in the Northeast and wanting the A10 to see. I want to see this league thrive again. It's a major bummer to see how here we are again, and the conference just it is lacking producing 3, 4, 5 teams that are in that top 70, 75 conversation. Mason's actually doing solid under Tony Skinn. They're a famous alum, but Dayton, you can't be doing this. I don't know what's gone wrong, but it's taken a turn for the worse real quick in a way that I didn't expect.
It was interesting pregame because we had a interview with Anthony Grant that they did live from the remote, and he was like, we're not, we got issues right now, individually, collectively. Like, he knew his team, and Dayton's kind of gone from, Dayton's starting to look a little bit like Memphis last season. Like Memphis last season, non-league, got all the way up to number 10 in the AP poll, then just fell apart. Dayton beat UConn and Marquette in the non-league. I had them in the top 25 and 1 at some point. Now they can't beat anybody. Like they're really, really struggling. Yeah, they've taken a turn. I just thought it was interesting. Anthony Grant seemed to know we're in a real bad place right now. And then they came out and they looked bad. I mean, and they were at home with a crowd, and it just looked like they had no energy. It just looked bad.
Yeah, no good. And we'll see if they can turn around. Grant is a good coach. I'm sure some Dayton fans in the moment right now would love to dispute that, but man, they got to do something. Thursday, Temple beats Memphis 88-81. Memphis 13-4, Temple 11-6. It's notable for Temple. I mean, listen, as someone who primarily grew up and began to love the sport in the 90s, like, I'm aching for Temple to matter again. It doesn't look like it's going to be necessarily this season, but Owls get a good win. Good on you. I just don't take much from the game, GP. You're on the road. I wasn't shocked by the result, frankly, and Memphis has more than enough room on the resume to afford 1 or 2 losses in league against a just okay Memphis Temple team. They're not terrible, but this one, it didn't really register much for me.
I still have Memphis in the top 25 and 1, but I can just tell you this registers with Memphis fans because of what I just said a second ago. They went through this last year. Like, hey, we really did it in the non-league and fell apart in the AAC. And so when you have this, there's a little PTSD attached to it. Like, oh my God, is this a here we go again thing? Penny, after the game last night, said, I'm not worried yet. I would co-sign that. I wouldn't be worried yet either. But this is a wild fact that I'm about to tell you. Over the past 2 years, Memphis is 13-4 against power conference teams. So Power 4 and Big East. Memphis has played 17 games over the past 2 years against Power 4 teams and Big East teams. They're 13-4. Over the same span of time, Memphis is 14-9 against AAC teams. 13-4 against Power 4 and the Big East. 14-9 against the AAC past 2 seasons. And oh, by the way, past 2 seasons, 2-3 against Owls. How are you 2-3 against Owls?
Those Owls, man, they can be tricky.
Keith Lee played here. Elliot Perry played here.
It's quite the dichotomy.
Larry Finch played and coached here.
And so Memphis, though, that's such a Memphis thing. Like what you're laying out there, that's not, on some level, it's just not surprising.
You can't be 2-3 against Owls, and I'd say that about any proud program.
Let's keep it chugging along here. Which Big Ten result do you want to get to for Thursday night? Quite a noisy and watchable, entertaining night in the Big Ten. We had three results we got to get to.
Yeah, there were 3 interesting results in the Big Ten. Broadly speaking, and we've already touched on some of it. There were only 3 games involving ranked teams, and all 3 ranked teams lost road games to unranked teams. So I don't know. Let's start Minnesota 84, Michigan 81 in overtime, because I think Dawson Garcia had the shot of the night. Logo 3 at the buzzer for the win. That was fun to watch.
It was. Can we not? You got that ready? Can we see this real quick? Dawson Garcia.
A 3 for the lead or the win. Wolf spinning, hanging, scoring with 7 seconds to go. Minnesota, no timeouts. Patterson bumped, we play on. It's Garcia, lets it go for the win! Dawson Garcia, bottom, ball game, Gophers walk it off and beat Michigan in overtime.
Everybody wants to be a Chris Jenkins these days. Everybody runs that play now.
It was kind of like it. It felt.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a pitch back, but like the pitch back,
Yeah,
everybody's pitching it back now.
It was a pitch back. Couple things on this. Good for Dawson Garcia and good for Minnesota. Dawson Garcia, Minnesota got ravaged by the portal last season, and it might wind up being the worst team in the Big Ten this season. Dawson Garcia could have gone anywhere, and in my estimation, he could have been a player that could have easily. He was he could have been a guy that was commanding $600,000-$800,000, and maybe he wound up getting all of that at Minnesota. I don't know, but I do know Minnesota has consistently ranked near the bottom in that conference in NIL capabilities. But he's from the area. Remember, this guy was at Marquette, North Carolina, went to Minnesota at one point. Was had a lot of promise to him, and he's quietly just kind of finished out his career. And for him to get that moment, I think is really, really cool. Logo 3 to win it for your program, your hometown. This was Minnesota's first league win of the season. It was Michigan's first conference loss of the season, and it was Minnesota's first win against a ranked opponent since 2021. They had lost 17 consecutive games to teams with a number next to their name. If you watch the highlight just there, Danny Wolf got the bucket that could have extended the game. Instead, Garcia hits it, and it's classic writer's jinx. My court report led Wednesday on Michigan and Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden, and I talked to them. I talked to Dusty May about, they're the only team that's not only just starting 2 7-footers, but playing them way more than anyone else. There are plenty of teams that are now using 2 bigs, so to speak, but specifically, if you go to the 7-foot threshold, it's Michigan. Wisconsin's got 2, but one of their fellas has been listed at 6'11", so there's a little bit of a discrepancy. But even if you take that into account, they don't do it nearly as much as what Michigan's doing. Last night, those 2 combined for 41 points, 18 rebounds, 9 assists. Wolf did have 6 turnovers, and this has been a bugaboo for him. He's projected now as a first-round pick, but there are some obvious things about his game that he's got to clean up. If you're a Michigan fan, it's a slightly disturbing loss because you blew another big lead. Michigan has done this a lot. It's got 4 losses, and they have all been close, but it's also held on to games where it easily could have lost. Up 11 in the second half, they couldn't get it done. Credit to Minnesota. They needed it. Good win for them. Michigan, I still have a lot of faith in, but there's some stuff here and there where you're kind of like, they gotta figure this out. If they're really going to be like a top 15 team, they can't allow that to happen. You can't allow blowing these big time leads, which has become a pattern, and Wolf's got to clean it up a little bit with his turnovers.
Northwestern had a buzzer beater too, not to be outdone. It wasn't from as far away. It wasn't logo, but let's watch that and celebrate together.
Martinelli in the middle of a bunch. Ooh, they missed Ty Beard. To Martinelli for the win. Oh! Martinelli with a catch. They'll review it. But Martinelli from now wins it for the Cats. Unbelievable. Not sure how he broke free like that. The previous play is under review for a score-no-score situation.
Everybody wants to be Chris Jenkins these days.
Well, that was, if you're not watching, you didn't see it. The play was nothing like Chris Jenkins.
I know, but Chris Jenkins could make that play. No question in my mind.
Right now, you ask him to step in. Martinelli, it was a double screen, came off the curl, broke free. They had 0.7. He got it off just in time. This happened after a loose ball and was knocked out and wound up being Northwestern's ball. 2 different kind of buzzer beaters. Garcia gets it. They couldn't advance the ball, which I'm a big fan of because it just creates these awesome endings. Meantime, this one, you're more typical half-court, blob, if you will, baseline out of bounds play. Martinelli had 22 points. Brooke Barnheiser had 20, 10, and 5, playing banged up. He looked good. Julian Reese had 23 for Maryland. Jacoby Gillespie, actually, on the previous play, hit a pretty dazzling layup that would have theoretically gotten it to a second overtime. That did not happen. Northwestern ended its 3-game losing skid. It's 11-6. Maryland is now 13-5.
I guess one more interesting result: Rutgers 85, Nebraska 82. The Scarlet Knights. I don't know what to make of it. I'm a building truster. You know that about me. I'm a building truster. You know that about me. You know how I feel about Pinnacle Bank. You know what's been going on at Pinnacle Bank. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper have been getting beat by everybody all season. And then they just walked right into Pinnacle Bank, and they win at 85-82. I didn't see that one coming, Norlander.
You know what? I didn't either. But I tell you what, this was a really fun game. Like, I understand if you're, checking in on a lot of stuff, unranked Rutgers, unranked Nebraska, it's not going to be the most appealing of the night. This was really good offense, good pace, smooth playmaking. It was a really fun watch. Nebraska has now lost 3 in a row as well. Rutgers is 10-8. It's still like hovering around 100 in all the team sheet metric. It has a long way to go to get into the tournament conversation, but you have to compile these kinds of wins to get yourself back into maybe being a bubble team. So good on them. Dylan Harper, 21 points. He was dicing Northwestern in the second half. And then Jordan Ozer on Twitter sent us this. Ace Bailey had 24 points, 11 boards, 4 assists, 3 blocks, and a steal. It was his best game of the season. I think even beyond like the 38, 39 point game he had without Harper available to them against Indiana. That was also a very, very good game. This one was probably overall, if you watched it, his best one. Jordan said that stat line had only been reached by 8 freshmen in the past 2 decades. And of those 8, 7 of them played multiple seasons in the NBA. Jordan sent it along, courtesy of StatHead and Sports Reference. Shouts to Katie Sharp. Those players are Ben Simmons, Michael Beasley, Zion Williamson, Talon Horton-Tucker, DeAndre Ayton, Devin Thomas, Greg Oden Jr., and Jalen Johnson. Devin Thomas of NC State, the only one that didn't play multiple years in the NBA. That's some classic NC State shit. But everyone else, that's some good stuff there, and a good harbinger of Ace Bailey, who projects as a top 5, if not a top 3 pick. Good on you, Rutgers. I got one more before we go to the Final Four and 1. I think it's from Wednesday. Dude.
Is this the one with all the fouls?
Dude. Yes. Not just that, but the back end of the story. UMass beats this is outrageous. UMass beats Fordham 120-118 in 3 overtimes.
Yeah.
Okay. It happened a day before. You talk about buildings, Roselle Gym. That's near and dear to my heart. That is a classic building. One of the true churches in our sport. It turned 100 yesterday, so this game was played the day before. The game took more than 3 hours and 40 minutes to play. 79 fouls, 122 free throws, 9 foul outs.
Yeah.
UMass had a dude, Rasul Diggins, had 46 in this game. Fordham's Jackie Johnson had 36. It was the highest scoring game in the history of that building on the eve of its 100th birthday. I thought that was really, really cool. And then yesterday, the day after the game gets played, Fordham suspends its coach, Keith Ergo, 4 games for, quote, recruiting violations. What do you need to be doing in 2025 to get suspended by your own school for recruiting violations? An incredible 24-36 hours for the Fordham program. I'm genuinely, how in the hell do you get suspended in season for recruiting violations by your own school? I am truly impressed that you could do this.
Bro, what are you doing?
It's got to be something stupid. I almost guarantee you, I haven't dug into it. I almost guarantee you this is one of the dumbest things you've ever heard if they've actually. It's either really, he's either on the verge of being fired because it's so bad, or it's so stupid they should give him a 5-year contract extension. It's going to be one of those 2 things.
Yeah, we'll see. Right?
Yes.
Meantime, in other coaching news, Florida's got another coach facing a Title IX investigation.
Correct. We can hit that right. I mean, we can hit that right now. If we didn't get it to it here, I was going to in the weekend look ahead. But like, what the hell? Torian Green. This broke Thursday. Credit to ESPN.com and Paul Levine, who broke the story and spoke with a female staffer at Florida who I believe earlier this week, filed a sexual assault claim against Torian Green, who's on staff, the same Torian Green from the 2006-2007 Florida team, and alleges in the complaint that in March of last year, Torian Green, who she knew from going off of ESPN's reporting, knew a little basically through, occasional, both work at the same university in the same athletic department. See you here, see you there. And then approached her, kissed her, tried to put, kids earmuffs, I guess, just, give a heads up if anyone's listening with their kids, but then did put his hand down her pants. She said no, he did it again. And then amid all this Todd Golden inquiry, she felt an impulse to make this claim and this allegation against Torian Green. As we record this podcast, there is no update from Florida on the status of Torian Green. We still don't know what's happening with Todd Golden and the progression of that investigation. What Golden is dealing with is a separate incident entirely, and the behaviors are entirely different from what Green is being alleged here, but they are both members of the basketball staff, and just a brutally terrible look from Florida in general. And it needs to hasten its investigations to bring more clarity and transparency to this, because the more this goes on, the worse it looks overall, regardless of the fact that, there were two different incidents. They're both on the basketball staff. What are we doing here? Can we get clarity on this as quickly as possible so we can actually render a judgment and figure out what the hell's going on there? Because I will tell you this, knowing people associated with Florida, they're embarrassed, they're disgusted with this in particular, and you would think we will get an update from the university later on Friday on the status of Torian Green. Obviously, we don't have that as we talk here on Friday morning, but yes, that was a very important, notable, and disturbing headline that emerged Thursday night in the sport.
All right, it's time for the Final 4 and 1 presented by Fanduel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. We'll get to that next. First, let's get one more word from our partners. It's time for the Final 4 and 1 presented by Fanduel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Updated season records. Norlanders 22 and 28. And that might not sound good because it's not, but it's better than my 21 and 29 season record. We both went 2 and 3 last week. We both suck.
We love going 2 and 3.
I suck a little more than Norlander, but he sucks too. Don't let him lie to you. Get your picks from Sportsline. Those people are smart. I spend most of my time trying to look up Tony Hinkle's career record and figuring out what Penny Hardaway's mark is over the past 2 years against Owls. That's what I'm doing with my time. If you want picks, go to Sportsline. Game 1, Saturday, noon Eastern. Number 4, Alabama at number 8, Kentucky inside Mark Pope Arena. Give it to him. He deserves it at this point. You can watch it on ESPN.
Whoa. And I know we're running up against it. You're giving it to him already?
Yes, already. He deserves it. He deserves it.
You just cursed. I'm switching my pick. You just cursed Kentucky. There's no way you're naming the arena after the coach when he's halfway through his first season.
Yes, this has never been a mistake.
It's over for.
It has never been a mistake to believe in stuff like this halfway through a first season. Give him the building. Put his name on it. You can watch it on ESPN. Kimpom's got it. Kentucky -1. How are you going to act?
What makes it even wilder is this is the rare building where there actually already is. It's a building that's already named after a coach at the school.
Yeah, but that coach has some questionable character.
I agree with you entirely. If you, on a purely fundamental philosophical level, if you want to make the case for Mark Pope versus Adolph Rupp, there's some things that are much more Mark
If
Pope.
you had another son and you had to either name your next son Adolph Rupp or Mark Pope, what would you do, Norlander?
You're giving me Mark versus Adolph. I'm sorry. I'm going Mark every time. And what do you want from me?
And I think most of us are going Mark every time. So why would Kentucky's basketball arena not follow our lead? Do what's right. Do what's right.
I do, but I feel like you're setting up to curse Kentucky this weekend with this. Kentucky is 5-0, although they're 5-0 versus ranked competition. If you have to lose, Mark Sears didn't have a good game last time out, but he had been playing well previously. I can make this quick. I was going to take Kentucky, but because you did this with Mark, I'm flipping it for no reason. Give me Bama +1. I'll go Bama goes in to Mark Pope Arena.
Oh, are you crazy?
Pulls off the win. And man, oh man, does this game have phenomenal potential? If we don't get 17 monitor reviews and 59 combined fouls. There's a real chance this can be the most watchable game of the entire weekend. Kentucky's had a habit of it. It's had like 3 or 4 supremely incredible, aesthetically pleasing games so far. I will go Bama +1.
Nate Oates is incredible. He might be back in the Final Four for the second straight season, but this is a Saturday tilt against Mark Pope inside Mark Pope Arena. Give me Mark Pope inside of Mark Pope Arena. If we're only laying 1 point inside Mark Pope Arena, buddy, I'm going that way every single time. Game 2 Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern, Kansas State at number 9 Kansas inside TJ Gassnola Fieldhouse. You can watch it on CBS. It's America's most watched network, Network of Stars. KenPom's got it. Kansas -19. My God, that's a big number. Woo! Good.
Have we ever had a Final Four in one game with a projected spread as large as 19?
I don't know, but I know one thing. I know where I work. And this game's on CBS, America's most watched network, the Network of Stars. So it's Kansas -19. How you going to act?
Let me see if I can get this right on time. The spread is...
Okay. What's up, Billy?
What's the spread on this, Billy? Okay, there we go. Okay. This is... All right, there's no way this spread's... Again, we are doing the... although this is the rare Final Four in 1. There's going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday games. Keep it tuned here. But this is a Saturday game. We're doing the KenPom projected line. I'm going to guess it's going to be like 15.5 when it comes out. That's a guess. Give me K-State to show up and play well. They're going to lose, but I'll get them inside the number here. Jerome Tang's team is 7-9, which is partly the reason why this is such a big number. We talked about them earlier in the week. I will go Wildcats in the Sunflower State showdown.
Sunflower State, both these teams are disappointing technically relative to preseason expectations. Kansas preseason number 1, currently sitting 4th in the Big 12. Kansas State was 31st in the preseason AP poll, currently 7-9. I know it's a big number, Norlander, but this is still Allen Fieldhouse. And I'm not even joking around. I love Jerome Tang. That team just looked like it had nothing the other night and has looked that way for much of this season. Like there's just something not right there. I'll lay the points with the Jayhawks inside Allen Fieldhouse, otherwise known as TJ Gassnola Fieldhouse. Game 3 Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern, number 17 Purdue at number 13 Oregon inside Tawan Porter Arena. You can watch it. I love Tawan Porter. He's a little fella like me. You can watch it on NBC. KenPom's got it Oregon -1.
Feels like a trap, doesn't that? Oregon -1. That feels like a trap. They're begging you to take Oregon, and Purdue's going to wind up winning. So I'm going right into that trap. Give me the Ducks. A couple of outstanding Big Ten games here, and that's why we have a Big Ten themed Final Four in 1 moving forward. Jackson Shellstad versus Braden Smith. It's a really good guard matchup. I will go with the Ducks. They're at home, -1. Yeah, Purdue flying west. Give me the Ducks to win and cover.
You were half right there. You identified the funny business. You properly identified funny business, but you couldn't bring yourself to act on it.
I can't. I'm walking right into it.
It does no good to identify. It does no good to properly identify funny business if you can't execute. It does no good to identify funny business if you can't act on it. Oregon -1. Absolutely, they are begging you to take the Ducks minus a point inside Tawan Porter Arena. He's a little fella, listed at 5'7", played in 2 NCAA tournaments, took Oregon to the Elite 8, MVP of the 2007 Pac-10 tournament. So you only got to lay 1 point inside Tawan Porter Arena. Funny business, though. You spotted it. I will act on it. Plus, I'm like 46% Boilermaker still. Give me Purdue plus a point on the road Saturday. Game 4, Sunday, noon Eastern, number 19 Illinois at number 12 Michigan State inside Mateen Cleaves Center. Shouts to Mateen Cleaves, most outstanding player, 2000 Final Four. You can watch this one on CBS, America's most watched network, Network of Stars. KenPom's got it Michigan State -2. Ooh.
Adidas, Clark Kellogg on the call, on the eye on Sunday. This is going to be a good one. If travel plans allow, I would love to try and pod if it allows. We got to see if we can do this, folks. But if we can get on and start doing this podcast within 15 to 20 to 30 minutes of this game ending, we'll try and get you on Sunday before the big football games get going. Keep that in mind. This is a huge Sunday game on a light slate because of the football. Michigan State -2 at home. They've been playing well. Illinois has Yakachonis back. Just fantastic. Build your morning, early afternoon around this one before you get in for the NFL divisional round, second part of that on the weekend. I will go. We had some road victories kind of as a theme this week so far, Parrish, with some good teams going on the road and pulling off some wins. I'll stick with it here. Give me Illinois to go in and beat Michigan State straight up.
Michigan State is the only team with a 0 in the loss column as it pertains to Big Ten records after Michigan lost on Thursday night. I think Illinois, I said this earlier in the week in studio, I think Illinois has got the highest ceiling in the Big Ten. Like if you told me a Big Ten team is going to win the national championship, I can't tell you who, but take a guess. I would guess Illinois. I think that's the team in the Big Ten with the highest ceiling. But Michigan State at home, I'll respect the Mateen Cleave Center. I'll lay the 2 points with the Spartans. Michigan State improves to 7-0 in league play.
We got 3-4 minutes before we got to scoot out of here and allow GP to do his other show. Do you want the and one or do you want the quick look ahead first? You pick it.
Quick look ahead and one. Shouts to Devin Downey, all by 55.
Okay, let's do it. Look ahead. Friday, Iowa at UCLA, 9 Eastern at FS1. Boise State at New Mexico, 11 Eastern at FS1 are 2 games to know. Saturday, here's what you're looking at. 13-3 Houston at 12-4 UCF, noon on CBS Sports Network. Also at noon, good new ones. Creighton, UConn, and then 14-4 Clemson plays at Pitt at noon on the CW. Pitt has gone from 12-2 to 12-5. If they lose this one at home, wheels might be officially off. That's an urgent game in the Steel City at 1 Eastern. Auburn plays Georgia on SEC Network. See how Chaney Johnson does after he scored 17, stepping into the starting lineup there. Auburn 9-1 in quad 1 right now and 5-1 versus ranked opponents. Georgia is also ranked. Arizona, Texas Tech, 2 Eastern on ESPN2 on Saturday. Arizona has not lost in more than a month. That one smells to me like it's going to be another really good game. Texas Tech with back-to-back Saturday home games against good opponents there. We'll see if they can pull this one out. Also at 2 on Fox is Xavier Marquette. If Xavier can win this, it's going to be tough to get a win, but if they can win it, okay, maybe they might have something there. Wisconsin plays USC at 3 o'clock on Big Ten Network. Tennessee plays at 14-3 Vandy at 3:30 on SEC Network on Saturday. Vandy is getting almost no buzz despite having a 14-3 record. There's a promise. If the Doors can win and break on through to the other side, we will talk Vandy on Sunday's show at some point. Texas plays Florida, 4 Eastern, ESPN2 on Saturday. Iowa State plays West Virginia at 5. Feels like half of Iowa State's games are on ESPN+. This is another one. Still no Tucker DeVries for WVU, which is looking to avoid a third loss in 4 games after starting 11-2. Arkansas, Mizzou is at 6 o'clock. And Mississippi State, the rare game where those 2 teams are ranked, that's at 6 Eastern on ESPN2. Those 2 teams are a combined 29-5. That's all good stuff, but I wanted to get one game in with the actual point spread. So your and one is tonight, Friday, 8 Eastern on Fox. Indiana at Ohio State on, of course, David Lighty Court. The actual line, not KenPom, the actual line as we go live here is Ohio State -7. Ohio State -7. This feels like a trap, part 2. Who you got?
I mean, come on.
Ohio State -7 feels like a trap.
Well, first off, I've seen
Indiana has won 4 of the last 5 against Ohio State, by the way.
I've seen many a man better than Mike Woodson get D-blurred in my time. I've seen many a man better than Mike Woodson get D-blurred in my time. So you caught a trap if you want to, but you think I'm picking a team ain't finished in the top 25 at KenPom since 2016 on the road against the D-blur? Not me, buddy. Not me. I'm laying points with the Buckeyes.
Nada, can you play this 13-second video real quick? This is Luke Goody of Indiana.
To all those fans that were booing and, are so negative on social media, just don't switch sides when we get this thing turned around. We all got the confidence in our teammates, got the confidence in our coaches, so just stay on that side when we start being successful again.
We got to get out of here in like 60 seconds, but this is insane. Luke Goody switched sides. He was at Illinois, and then he came to Indiana, which 1,000 million people pointed out on social media the second.
You're a side switcher, buddy. You're a side switcher.
And also, you get this from like a professional athlete. Like it feels like once every so often. Dude, this is not the tact you want to take with your fan base. When we start getting good, don't come back over and start rooting for us. I get the frustration. I was just surprised to hear it. That's not the way you want to go, man.
By the way, if there's one thing I know, if Indiana ever does get good, the fans will they'll let you know about it. But hey, here's what I think. I think Indiana is going to turn it around at some point in my children's lives. But I doubt Luke's going to have much to do with it. So
I get where he's coming from with it, but that quote was wild. We got to get out of here. I'm against my better judgment. The number 7, whatever. Luke Goody, I'm riding with you. Give me Indiana +7. Probably come to regret it later on tonight.
Oh, I can't wait for that. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Terry Teagle, legend. Huck Larnell. Thank you guys for once again watching, listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. And thanks for accommodating our schedule, letting us go a little later today. I really was up past 5 a.m. And I really did spend some of that time looking up skills record against Tony Hinkle unsuccessfully. These are all real things I do in the middle of the night.
How does it work?
If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. There's more of us than there are of them. That's got to be reflected in the comments. So do that. We'll talk to you again on Sunday. Till then, take care.